My half-sister destroyed my marriage, stole the life I once had, and now she wants me to officiate her wedding, but I had a plan for revenge. My husband Jerry, 52 male, and I, 48 female, had been together for about 12 years and married for 10. We were so joyful at the beginning, you know? Every moment we spent together was a source of delight, filled our days with laughter, dreams, and the little things that made us love each other even more. We were a team, tackling life together. Our smiles were contagious, and everything seemed a little better when we were together. We soaked up the love we had, from cozy Sundays to odd date nights that just made everything feel great. Life was simple and we enjoyed every moment of it. But suddenly, things began to shift. Date nights became stressful, and the casual laughter was no longer as loud as it always was. I started noticing that he was spending more and more time on his phone than with me. Date nights were no longer lighthearted. There was a palpable strain in the air. Our happiness had begun to fade, and I couldn't escape the feeling that our relationship was slipping away from me. The intimacy we previously shared was fading, replaced by a growing distance that seemed difficult to repair. I began to suspect Jerry might be having an affair. Late-night phone calls and odd messages became too common for me to dismiss. I questioned his behavior changes, as well as the fact that he felt distant even when we were only inches apart. But Jerry ignored it, claiming that I was reading too much into his conduct and that he was simply preoccupied at work. In my gut, I knew it wasn't just paranoia. It was a feeling that our marriage was taking an unforeseen turn. On a Friday evening, I planned to surprise Jerry with a dinner date, hoping to revive our relationship. I eagerly went to his office to pick him up, anticipating a night of connection and joy. However, my elation quickly changed to regret when he sent me a message saying he would be working late owing to an onerous workload. I sighed, accepting the change in plans without letting him know I was waiting for him below. I was about to depart when I noticed Jerry exiting his employment, which surprised me. This confused me because it contradicted his message about a difficult workload. Puzzled, I watched him get into his car and drive away. I decided to follow him instinctively, with curiosity in my heart. Little did I know that what I was about to witness would rock me to my core. I followed him as he pulled into a pub. I wasn't sure what he was doing there. Why did he lie to me about this? As I quietly studied him at the bar, my greatest suspicions were clear. He was meeting a woman. I remained there, stunned, as the woman's back appeared familiar to me. The mystery woman then moved to sit in front of him, and my eyes widened in surprise as I realized it was my stepsister Karen. I could feel my legs giving out from shock, and I nearly fainted in front of the bar. While spying on them, I noticed my husband and Karen holding hands and smiling lovingly at one another. The understanding hit me like a gut punch, and I had an intense want to vomit. The overwhelming contempt, along with the betrayal, left me with a range of feelings, wondering how to respond to the extent of his deception. I recall leaving the bar in a trance, hoping Jerry wouldn't catch me. That night was the most difficult one of my life. I don't think I've sobbed this much since my dog died last year. It was terrible to realize that the person I intended to spend the rest of my life with was cheating on me with my own stepsister. For some perspective on my stepsister, my parents divorced when I was very young, and my mother married her new husband Harry. Harry had a daughter from his previous marriage, Karen. Karen and I hit it off right away, despite our 4-year age difference. However, our relationship began to deteriorate as I became aware of her ability to manipulate others. She showed to be a master of deception, easily manipulating any circumstance to her benefit. Karen's manipulative abilities were unrivaled, whether it was lying to our parents to evade punishments or misleading total strangers without thinking twice. Karen was constantly jealous of me, despite the fact that we both came from shattered homes. No matter how hard I tried, she never liked me. As we grew older and eventually went to college, I saw less of her. I received a full-ride scholarship and enjoyed my college years, making new friends, trying new classes, and relishing the freedom of youth. I started coming home less and less, and eventually stopped talking to Karen except at family gatherings. Even though I kept my distance from Karen, she continued to be mean to me over the years. She would make subtle but nasty remarks about my appearance whenever we were alone at family gatherings. Whether it was a criticism about my wardrobe or a sneaky suggestion about how I should go to the gym more regularly, her words were always intended to undermine my confidence. I always tried to disregard these comments as much as possible. Karen didn't stop there. She would frequently be overly nice with my husband, who was then my boyfriend. She would make comments to him about how he deserved someone more attractive or how amazing his gym images were. Jerry used to look visibly embarrassed and flush when she complimented him. I always assumed it was just Karen being Karen. She was always inappropriate with everyone I dated and introduced to my family. Since my marriage to Jerry, She had toned down her flirty behavior, and I never gave it any attention. But after seeing them together tonight in the pub, I was convinced that this had been going on for a while. They appeared to be comfy and familiar with one another. When Jerry came back that night, I pretended to be asleep. He reeked of liquor and sweat and didn't even try to hide it. His arrogant demeanor hinted at his growing arrogance. He had begun to believe that he could just get away with anything like this. I lay awake all night, worrying about my next steps. Before Jerry awoke, I discreetly removed his phone from our bedroom to check through it. Checking his messages, calls, emails, and images, I meticulously documented proof by taking shots using my own phone. That morning, after Jerry had left for work, I decided to drive to my mother's house because I felt she was the only person who could console me. My stepfather was at work, so I felt I could speak with my mother in private. When I told my mother about my husband's romance with my stepsister, she was as startled as I was. She almost didn't believe me until I presented all the proof. She was outraged that Jerry and Karen could perform such a heinous act. My mother, being the rock she is, instantly planned to confront them in front of everyone. I could understand how upset she was since she had always treated Karen as if she were her own daughter when we were younger. We couldn't comprehend how my own stepsister could stab me in the back like this. We devised a plan to invite our close family members to supper at my place over the weekend. My mother advised me to keep my lips shut and not tell Jerry about it. Everyone arrived at the gathering looking refreshed and pleased. We all ate supper together, and while people drank wine, I looked at my mother and nodded, signifying that it was time. She understood and stood up to retrieve the projector. I clinked my glass to grab everyone's attention. "Thank you all for joining us tonight," I began, my voice firm despite the tempest of emotions within me. "I've called you all here for a special reason, something I've been struggling with for a long time. I want you to pay attention to the projector because I have a surprise for you." Curiosity filled the room as my family and friends focused their attention on the projection screen. My mother had set up the gadget, and I took a deep breath, preparing to reveal the awful truth. I connected it to my phone and started scrolling through the photographs and messages I'd saved from my husband's phone. The room fell silent as everyone focused on the television. The first image appeared, showing Jerry and Karen in an intimate stance. Gasps and murmurs echoed around the room. Everyone glanced at it, bewildered. "This is not easy for me, but I felt you all needed to know the truth," I said, my voice steady. "These pictures and messages are evidence of an affair between my husband, Jerry, and my stepsister Karen." The room erupted with amazement, indignation, and shock. As they witnessed the evidence, their eyes widened and their jaws dropped. My mother's expression was a mix of rage and sorrow, and I could feel the tension rising. She stood beside me, holding my hand, silently reassuring me that she had my back. I continued scrolling through the devastating letters, revealing the extent of the betrayal. As I divulged more, everyone's shock morphed into palpable fury. I turned to face Jerry and Karen, who were sitting in startled silence. Jerry's face flushed with guilt, while Karen, formerly manipulative and shrewd, appeared little and vulnerable. The room appeared to vibrate with the combined wrath of those present. My mother stepped forward, her voice stern and full of disappointment. "How could you do this to our family? To your spouse? Your sister?" she demanded, her gaze fixed on Jerry and Karen. My stepfather looked directly at Karen and asked whether what I had revealed was accurate. Karen fell into tears, unwilling to confront him. The weight of his remarks appeared to crush her. Other family members expressed their own disbelief and fury. Some people exchanged looks and shook their heads, while others murmured harsh remarks to one another. Jerry and Karen sat there, unable to justify their actions in the face of incriminating evidence and furious emotions. The room pulsated with the weight of the truth, and my heart, though heavy, felt strangely relieved. The secret was out, and the lie was exposed for all to see. I spoke up again, addressing the audience. "I didn't come to you all here simply to expose them. I also wanted to let you know that I'm divorcing Jerry. If Karen wants my husband, she may have him. I appreciate everyone's compassion and support during this tough time." As the shock evolved to solidarity, the entire room rallied in my favor. Friends and family sent words of consolation and condemnation to Jerry and Karen. Jerry's face turned scarlet, and he walked away humiliated. Karen followed him, evidently looking for an excuse to get out of the situation. My mother held me, and I started crying. I had kept this agony hidden inside me all along, and suddenly it was coming out. In the months after this tragedy, I found myself emotionally exhausted, unable to muster the strength to get out of bed. The weight of the betrayal, along with the tiredness of innumerable tears, had left me feeling like a hollow shell of myself. Sleep had become both a haven and an escape from my harsh life. I kicked Jerry out of our house while we worked through our divorce. It was a long and difficult path, but I knew I wanted to get divorced from him as soon as possible. 2 days ago, following months of legal proceedings, the court granted us our wish. We were formally separated. I was overjoyed and spent the day with my mother, shopping and eating ice cream. For the first time in years, I felt liberated and free. That evening, when we were seated and watching a movie at my mother's house, my stepfather entered the room, looking upset. My mother asked him what was wrong, but he looked at me with worry. I sat up straight and asked him what had occurred. He asked if I had seen Karen's recent Facebook post. I shook my head and promptly unlocked my phone, looking for her profile. With bated breath, I went on her profile to see her most recent picture with Jerry. They were smiling and looked at each other with love. She captioned it, "So happy to be engaged." As I read the caption, my breath came to a stop. Then I realized, she was wearing a ring. I was very stunned to say the least. My mother, who was staring at me curiously, seized the phone from my grasp and cried out in surprise, understanding that Karen was truly marrying Jerry. I can't recall what transpired the rest of the night. Overwhelmed by shock and amazement, I sunk back into the couch, my mind whirling with a barrage of emotions. The room seemed to press in on me as I wrestled with the truth of the situation. My mother, who was similarly astonished, attempted to console me, but words failed us both. As if things weren't awful enough, my stepfather received a call from Karen. She was presumably calling to tell him about the news. I asked him to put her on speaker so I could hear what she had to say. My stepfather nodded and took up the phone. He calmly listened as Karen raved about her engagement and how excited she was to marry Jerry. I listened to her words, devastated and absolutely empty inside. My stepdad then furiously interrupted her. "Karen, what you did today is not only disrespectful and hurtful to your stepsister, but it will have far-reaching consequences for the entire family." Karen answered, apparently upset by his reaction. "I don't understand, Dad. Jerry and I are in love and we're getting married. What's wrong with celebrating that?" My stepdad chided me. "What's wrong, Karen, is the way you've gone about it. You had an affair and you think that's okay? Your actions have caused immense pain to someone you should consider family. Instead of being respectful and understanding, you are now flaunting your engagement in front of her and the rest of us without a thought for the consequences." Hearing his remarks, I burst into tears while my mother consoled me. I suppose this is when Karen learned my stepfather wasn't alone. She asked if I was in the room, and he confirmed. Karen then began pleading with me for a conversation. My stepfather glanced at me curiously, so I took the phone from him. I started asking her whether she realized what she was getting herself into. Karen smirked when she heard my voice and informed me she knew what she was getting into. She went on to suggest that I shouldn't be sobbing about Jerry because we were officially split and he was now free to marry her. As if that wasn't enough, Karen dropped another bombshell. Jerry and she wanted me to attend their wedding and bless them on their new path. Hearing her remarks, I felt a mixture of shock, rage, and incredulity. They wanted me to present a mask of acceptance, togetherness, and happiness when, in truth, I was dealing with the shattered shards of my own heart. The entire event felt like a sick joke on me. She began discussing how much it would mean to them if I could give a speech on their big day, indicating to everyone that I was fine with their wedding. I was stunned and at a loss for words. Without hesitation, my mother grabbed the phone from my grasp and addressed Karen directly. She stated unequivocally that Karen's actions were abhorrent and represented a new low. Karen responded angrily, stating that she and Jerry were in love and demanding that the family accept their relationship. I left my parents to deal with Karen and went to the guest bedroom, where I closed myself in and cried. I don't recall anything from the night. The next morning, I awoke angry and determined. Karen's audacious deeds kindled a fire within me. Instead than letting this knowledge devastate me, I resolved to turn the tables. I knew I had to tackle it head on and come out stronger. I wasn't going to let them take away my happiness and mental tranquility. I had a plan in my head and was determined to make Karen regret inviting me. I opened my laptop and began browsing her social media pages. I went through every social media picture she'd ever uploaded. As luck would have it, I eventually located what I was looking for. I convened a family meeting and described my intentions. I would go to Karen and Jerry's engagement party, but not alone. I would be inviting a very important guest to be my +1, unbeknownst to Jerry and Karen. My mother glanced at me curiously as I mentioned that I would be accompanying her ex-boyfriend from college, Ron. Ron was apparently my stepsister's great love, and she even had a tattoo of his name from when they were dating. They had a painful breakup, and I knew she would be shocked to find me arm in arm with her ex. My mother's eyes widened with recognition. I gave her a cheeky look. She gave me a gentle nod of assent, indicating that she understood my plan. My stepfather, on the other hand, believed this was going too far and warned me not to ruin my stepsister's wedding. So, Reddit, do you think I'm an a-hole for inviting my stepsister's ex to her wedding after she opted to sleep with and marry my husband? Update 1. It's been a few days since I last posted an update to my narrative. Thank you for your comments. I'm astonished how many of you understand and encourage my petty behavior. I'll confess that I wanted to be the bigger person at first, but seeing Karen update more and more of her engagement photos with Jerry officially reinforced my plan, and I set it in motion. I sent Ron a friend request on Facebook and messaged him once he accepted. To my amazement, he replied, and we began communicating. I was open with him about my identification as Karen's stepsister and her soon-to-be husband's ex. I informed him of my intention to invite him as my +1 to their wedding. He appeared surprised and curious about why I was contacting him, but I explained everything. I informed him that Karen had cheated on me with my own husband and was now marrying him. I told him I wanted to take him with me so I could make Karen feel the same way she did for me. After hearing everything, Ron agreed to accompany me. I get aroused thinking about the expressions on Jerry and Karen's faces when they see me at their wedding with Ron. My stepfather has no idea I'm going to take Ron. After our recent chat, in which he discouraged me from bringing him as my +1 to Karen's wedding, I've decided to keep this knowledge private for the time being. I will notify you when the wedding takes place in a few days. Update 2. It's been a month since I last updated. As much as I wanted to update you earlier, a lot has happened in my life, and I needed some time to calm down. As I previously stated, I did take Ron with me to the wedding. When their wedding day arrived, I put on a brave face. I strolled into their wedding in Ron's arms, dressed with confidence. Jerry's eyes widened as he noticed me going in with my special guest. He must have identified Ron as Karen's ex right away. We disregarded his face and pretended to locate our assigned seats. Jerry approached me and aggressively said, "Why are you there with Karen's ex?" But I just grinned. He couldn't make a scene in front of everyone and had to reluctantly walk back up the aisle, angrily staring at me. When it was time for the bride to enter, everyone stood up from their chairs. Karen, dressed in her wedding gown, entered with my stepfather. She recognized me among the guests and smiled triumphantly. I replied with a smirk, refusing to show her my vulnerability. Then she saw Ron standing next to me and stopped dead in her tracks. The music continued, and my stepfather begged her to keep walking, but Karen refused. Her gaze moved between me and him, possibly still perplexed. I held my head high and maintained a calm posture. When my stepfather observed Karen staring at me, he looked up at both me and Ron and must have realized what was going on. The air in the room swelled with tension, and I could feel the guests' collective curiosity growing. Karen surged toward me and came to a halt in front of us, her face distorted with a combustible combination of rage and disbelief. "Congratulations, Karen," I answered calmly. "I'm genuinely happy for you both." "What the hell is this?" she said, her voice angry. I met her gaze with an unwavering stare. "This, Karen, is my +1, I said with a hint of delight in my voice. "Meet Ron. You remember him, right? From your college days? Or should I mention the tattoo on your hand?" I continued, loving her stunned expression. Ron moved forward, his countenance unreadable. "Hey, Karen, it's good to see you after so many years. We thought we'd share in the joy of your special day," he stated calmly, refusing to be drawn into a confrontation. Karen's cheeks was flushed with wrath. "Joy? You call this joy? You're ruining everything," she exclaimed, her voice breaking through the din of the crowd. The room was stunned into silence. Guests glanced at Karen, their expressions reflecting the horror that filled the air. Whispers and whispers rippled around the room, as individuals exchanged incredulous looks. Keeping my cool, I replied, "Well, Karen, it was you who graciously invited me to your wedding with Jerry, so I thought I'd return the favor and bring along your ex, Ron." The room was alive with murmurs and gasps as the visitors assessed the developing drama. Karen's eyes furrowed at me, and she appeared surprised. It was evident she had not expected such a forceful response. Ron, keeping his calm manner, added, "Karen, we're here to celebrate your happiness. There's no need to make this a scene." Karen scoffed. "Celebrate my happiness? How can you even be with someone like her? Are you dating her now?" I smiled at her scorn and, shrugging nonchalantly, responded, "Like I said, you invited me. I'm just here to honor that invitation and wish you and Jerry a lifetime of joy together. What happens between Ron and me should not be your concern, especially since you're about to marry." Karen's rage heightened the tension in the room. Jerry, who was standing at the altar, came running down, pleading with Karen not to cause a commotion so that they could continue their celebration. Karen pulled him away fiercely. Then, out of wrath, she threw her bouquet across the room. The bouquet flew into the air, leaving a trail of petals in its wake before smashing to the ground. Despite the collective gasps, Karen walked out of the theater, her gown trailing behind her in a whirl of white. The door slammed shut behind her, leaving a sensation of astonishment in its wake. The visitors exchanged perplexed looks, unsure how to respond to the unexpected turn of events. Some people made awkward smiles, while others shifted uneasily in their seats. The mood, which had once been festive, was now tense and confusing. Jerry looked at me angrily and opened his mouth to yell, but my mother urged him to shut up after what he had the audacity to put me through. With a smirk, I told Ron that we should depart, and he nodded in accord. The audience erupted in a maelstrom of reactions, including disbelief, indignation, and whispered conversations. I left the venue with my head held high. The weight of betrayal was removed. The world had witnessed my anguish, resilience, and ability to rise above the ashes of a failed marriage. I don't care if people think I went too far because I've never slept with someone behind their back or ended a marriage. I only gave my stepsister a taste of her own medication. Update 3: I am astounded by everyone's response in just a few days since my previous update. I'm delighted to see that the majority of you understand why I did what I did, and I can appreciate some of your unfavorable emotions. Honestly, I have no regrets about what I did. My stepfather informed me that Jerry and Karen had formally ended their relationship. She refused to marry, no matter how hard Jerry begged with her. I'm guessing this suggests she still has feelings for Ron, and seeing him that day must have reminded her of them. I'm not one to take pleasure in the agony of others, but sometimes the only lessons individuals may learn are the repercussions. Jerry has sent me numerous angry missed calls and messages, but I have chosen to block him. My stepfather chastised me for what I did during my stepsister's wedding, and out of respect, I didn't argue with him much. My mother asked me to give him some time and space, and I agreed. In the aftermath, I've decided to focus on rebuilding my life and discovering happiness within myself. As I deal with the uncertainties of life, I will undoubtedly seek therapy, as everyone has suggested. For the time being, I want to focus on my personal development, finding my passions, and only exposing myself to positive influences. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.